average Miami condo right now has been sitting on the market for 168 days. That is not a typo. That is almost 6 months, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're a buyer, a seller, or an investor in this market, you need to understand what that number actually means before the window closes. What's up, everybody? Jake Fletcher here, Miami real estate advisor and team lead at the Fletcher Group at eXp Realty. And every month I pull the freshest, the finest data straight from the MLS, no spin, no agenda, and I break it down for you right here on this channel. And we talk about exactly what's happening in the South Florida real estate market so that you can make smart, confident decisions in one of the most complex markets in the country. So today we're going to be digging into the latest 2026 data for Miami-Dade condos, townhomes, and villas. And I'll be straight with you. This is not an easy market to spin positively. I always try to look at the bright side of things, but you know, there's an opportunity here, and I'm gonna show you exactly what it looks like and who it is built for, okay? So as always, the link to book a one-on-one strategy call with me is in the description down below. If you're thinking about buying, selling, investing, whatever it is that you're looking to do, let's talk before the market makes the decision for you. Let's get into it. So let's start off with demand, sales volume, and the close price to original price ratio. February closed sales came in at 838 condos, townhomes, and villas sold. And here's one thing that nobody's talking about in this market right now, which it's actually up. That's up. The closed sales are up 3.1% from 813 closed sales in February of last year. So in a market with 16 months of inventory and headlines screaming about condo oversupply, the fact that we closed more units year over year than last February, that's a real data point. And buyers are still in this market. They're just negotiating from a position of significant power, which leads us to close price to original price ratio. Okay, so February came in at 93.2%. That's up from 92.6% in January. And it's a small but meaningful improvement heading into what's supposed to be a busy season, but the year-over-year reality check is coming at you fast. Here it is. Last February, that ratio was 94.0%. So we're down nearly a full percent from where we were at 12 months ago. And look at the longer trend on this chart. Back in May of 2022, during the frenzy, sellers were getting 100% of their asking price, 100% on average. And today, 93.2%. So that's a nearly 7-point compression in what sellers can actually get for their condos. Sellers are still losing ground, and buyers, that's your leverage right there. So let's look at supply next. And this is where the Miami condo market is genuinely in a different world compared to single family homes. Active listings came in at 13,475 in February. That's down from 13,558 in January, which is a 0.6% month over month dip. It's small, but here's why it matters. That's a 5 consecutive months that we've seen now of declining active condo inventory, and that's 5 months in a row of fewer listings. So let that sink in for a second. The peak was April of last year at 14,910 active condos, and we've been steadily bleeding down from that high ever since. Now, there's something really interesting buried in this chart that I want you to pay attention to. Normally in summer, when kids are out of school and people are moving, we see condo listings tick up. That's the seasonal pattern. In 2025, we actually saw listings fall in June and July. So the one brief uptick was August into September, which makes sense seasonally, but even that was muted. What does that mean when listings fall during the months that they're supposed to be rising? Well, it tells you that sellers are exhausted. They're tired of sitting on the market for 5, 6, 7 months even with no takers, and they're pulling the listings. They're just waiting, or they're giving up. 16 months of inventory is no joke. Let that number settle in for a second. 16 months of inventory. A balanced market is 3 to 6. So a buyer's market is anything above 6 months, and we're at 16 months, down from 17 in January. So there's a small directional positive, but at 16 months, we're still deeply into a buyer's market territory right now, and with nothing fundamentally changed on the ground. Rates are still elevated, buyers are still cautious. The vibe here is still more inventory, not less. So over the next several months, if you're a seller in this segment right now, the market is telling you something very, very loud. Price aggressively or don't list. Now let's talk about the churn. new listings coming into the market and expired listings that went off the market without getting sold. So expired listings came in at 2,314 in February. That's down 9.1% from January's 2,545, which is a meaningful monthly improvement, and year over year expireds are up only 4.4% from last February's 2216. So as we see active supply trending downwards, we're also seeing expired listings start to come down with it. That's a logical relationship because fewer listings on the market means fewer listings available to expire. Makes sense. But here's the number that I really want to talk about, okay? New listings. New listings came in at 2,592 in February for condos, and that sounds like a lot, but compare it to February of last year when we had 3,050 new listings, and that's a 15% year over year decline. All right, so 15% fewer sellers deciding to list their condos this February versus last. And this is where the psychology of the market gets really interesting, because are those sellers waiting for rates to drop before listing? Are they underwater on HOA assessments and holding until they figure out their options? Or have they just simply watched their neighbors sit on the market for 6 months and gotten discouraged and decided, hey, I'm not even gonna bother with this right now? Well, it's probably a mix of all three, or potentially even some other idiosyncrasies, because people are complicated, right? But the result is the same. Fewer sellers are bringing product to the market, okay? And if that trend continues while demand stays stable or improves, well, that's a setup for a floor under prices and eventually a stabilization. We're not there yet, but the seed of it is in this chart. Days on market and median price, let's go. So days on market came in at 168 days in February, which is up from 162 days in January, going in the wrong direction if you're a seller, and up 31.3% from last February's 128 days. So 168 days is 5.5 months on the market, people. On average, that means that the average condo in Miami-Dade is going from listing to closing in nearly half a year. So if you list it in September, you're closing now. Or if you list it in October, you're still waiting for somebody to come along and buy your condo. This metric, more than any other, tells you where buyer urgency is right now. It isn't there. Buyers are patient, they're shopping, they're negotiating, and they have every reason to, because there are 13,000 other condos waiting if this one doesn't work out, okay? So now, last up, let's talk about price, and this one has a very interesting story. A year ago, February of 2025, the median condo price in Miami-Dade was $450,000. That was an all-time record high, matching the $450,000 that we briefly saw in March of 2024. This February, however, we had $415,000, which is a 7.8% reduction in median price year over year. So in 12 months, the median condo price has lost nearly $35,000 in value. Now let's zoom out on this chart and look at where we've been since July of last year. 405K, 405K, 420, 400, 395, 420, 420, 415K. We've been floating in this 400,000 to 420 range for 8 straight months. And here's the thing, that $450,000 ceiling, the market touched it in March of 2024 and again in February of 2025, but both times it got rejected. It couldn't hold. So with 16 months of supply overhead, 168 days, average days on market, and sellers conceding nearly 7 points off of their asking price, the ceiling is not moving anytime soon, which brings me to what all this data is actually saying for buyers. And here's my honest assessment of Miami's condo market in February of 2025. Number one, demand is holding, just barely. 838 closed sales, actually up 3.1% from February. Buyers are active, but they're working from a position of maximum leverage. The closed price to original price ratio at 93.2%, down from 94% a year ago, confirms that sellers are still making concessions to get deals done. Number two, supply is elevated, but showing early signs of fatigue. 16 months of inventory is still extreme territory, but 5 consecutive months of declining active listings tells us that sellers are starting to exhaust themselves out of this market. This is not a recovery, but it is the beginning of a floor. Number three, Pricing is range bound and struggling. That $415,000 median represents a 7.8% year-over-year drop. The $400,000 to $420,000 range has held for 8 months now, and the $450,000 ceiling has been tested twice and rejected twice. So until inventory drops significantly and days on market compresses, there's no catalyst to push prices meaningfully higher. So what does all this mean for you? If you're a buyer, you are in the driver's seat. 168 days on market average means that you have time. 16 months of inventory means you have options. And 93% closed price to original price ratio means there's room to negotiate. And the question isn't whether the market favors you, it clearly does. The question is whether you're positioned to act when you find the right deal. Now, if you're a seller in this market, it requires honesty about pricing. Overpriced listings are expiring by the thousands every single month. The homes that are selling are the ones priced to compete from day one. So if your agent isn't having that conversation with you, you probably need to find a new agent, okay? And if you're an investor looking at this segment right now, the opportunity here is very real. The prices that seem painful for sellers right now are entry points that look smart 5 years from now. So if you want to talk through any of this, your specific situation, what to offer, what to list at, or where to look, drop a comment, send me a DM, or use the link in the description down below, as well as all my contact info is down there. I work personally with every single client and I answer every single message. So if this breakdown was valuable to you, if you appreciate this type of video, make sure to obliterate the subscribe button, hit the bell, and I publish this data at the moment that I get it available. And in this market, being early is everything. Jake Fletcher here with the Fletcher Group at eXp Realty, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.